Well, welcome everyone to this week's edition of Voices United, our broadcast turned into podcast right here from United Way of Citrus County in Meadow Crest. And so today we are on for a live discussion with Commissioner Janet Barek as we continue our series with commissioners. So uh, Ms. Janet will be the fourth commissioner, and we're glad to have her today. But to start with, let me start as I always do by recognizing our sponsors. Thank you to Aesthetic House right here in Meadow Crest for being a sponsor. Also, Changes Hair Design Studio over in Homosassa in the Publix Plaza over there. And thank you, Publix, the biggest supporter of United Way in Citrus County, in the state of Florida, and worldwide. Also, our friends at Cattle Dog Coffee Roasters, Blue Water Drafting, and of course, Powers Protection, who's looking after our building after hours. So don't get any ideas. All right. So here we go. Commissioner Barek, thank you so much for joining us today. I so appreciate it. You are Citrus County's newest county commissioner. So what's that been like for you over the last, let's see, 4 months, 3-4 months?
Well, it's been a lot of meetings and a lot of meet this person and greet this person and learn who does what. And it's just a lot of fun. I'm enjoying what I do. Hopefully the people understand where I'm coming from. I still go to all my local meetings and ask people their opinions as to what they feel about this and that and the other. And then when I go to a board meeting, I vote according to how the people have told me. Not what I want, but what the people are wanting.
Yeah. Well, you said you hope that people know where you're coming from. Listen, I'm somebody who's watched a lot of county commission meetings. I'm that person. I have the Florida Channel app on my devices so that I can watch what's happening in Tallahassee, this sort of stuff. It's just interesting to me. So I've watched a lot of meetings, and you're no stranger to the county commission, that's for sure. And I will say, in terms of knowing where you're coming from, I feel like you've been pretty consistent, right, over all these years. But when you say that, know where I'm coming from, how would you sum that up? Where is Commissioner Barek coming from?
Well, I'm a normal person. I had no extra money anytime. My husband worked, I worked. We paid our bills. We're both on Social Security, except now I do get a paycheck from the board for what I do. But we learned how to live conservatively, but we learned how to live and enjoy life. And I went to meetings because I enjoy being with people, and I'm concerned about my community. So when we moved here, I wanted to be part of the community, and I wanted to be with the people of the community and see what they wanted. So that's where, when I say I'm out there asking questions, and that's what I am. I try to be the voice of the people, not what I want, but the needs of the county and the needs of the people that are the property owners and just people, the renters, the snowbirds. I get involved in whatever it is, whether it be church or whether it be the Beverly Hills, the new Beverly Hills committee, because they've changed. It's no longer the Beverly Hills Civic Association. It's the Leadership Council. I was president for the Citrus Springs Civic Association for 4 years. Prior to that, I was secretary for the Civic Association for 8 years. I was president for Citrus County Council for a year. I was on Citrus County Council board. And so I learned about leadership in the different areas of Citrus County, not just the fact that District 3, which is what I live in, and not just my district, because Citrus County Council was members from all over the county. We had representatives from Homosassa. We had representatives from Floral City, Citrus, of course, Citrus Springs, of course, Beverly Hills, Crystal River. So the people, I tried to get with everybody that was in the county, and that's what I continue to do. When I go out and check out something, I go door to door, or I go restaurant to restaurant, or if it has to be bar to bar, I go bar to bar. And I ask the same questions to see what the people are thinking, what they want, and if they appreciate what we're doing.
Yeah, and listen, you came to visit us well over a month ago, and I remember seeing that appointment book of yours. You are one busy individual right now, going out and meeting a lot of folks. That's for sure. And listen, it seems like everything I've been to in the community, I've seen you there. And now you haven't seen me at everything that you've been to. You've been much more active in the community than even I. So hat tip to you for that. And when we did meet before, we're just getting to know each other. I absolutely loved the story that you told about election night and the interaction between you and your husband, and I'd love it if you would tell everyone that story for us today. What was his take on things, you running to begin with, and then kind of what did he assume was the result afterwards?
Well, in 2010, when I retired, I started going to Board of County Commissioner meetings, and they're every 2 weeks, and they go whatever length. And so therefore I would get home different times, and my husband, he would constantly say, you don't get paid for this. Well, in 2024, my husband says, the county seat, the commissioner seat is up for our district. Either you run for it or you don't. And he says, if you run and you lose, you don't get to go to any more meetings. If you run and you win, then you can keep going to meetings. So being the person I am, I got out there and I went all over. Flea markets, any meeting that was available, I would go to, and I'd be willing to answer any questions people ask. Then the night of the election, which was August 19th, because it was the open primary, my friend Mike Belkin and I, who we both ran for Republican Party, he was committee man and committee woman. We decided we're not drinkers per se, so we wanted to have a party, and we got in touch with the ice cream place, Luigi's, the corner of West Hampshire and 491. And we invited all our friends, if they wanted to come, have an ice cream, have a root beer float, have a banana split, whatever they wanted. And my husband, because he can't have that kind of things, he stayed home. So I tried to call him, but he didn't answer the phone because he didn't have his hearing aids in and he didn't have his phone with him, as usual. When I got home a little after 9, he was sitting in his chair and he looked at me and says, "Oh, so you lost." And I said, "No, I won both elections." And he was like, "You what?" And I said, "Yep, I won both elections, and I'll be headed towards, state things and local things for the next 4 years. So he was just floored.
I just love that. I love that. I mean, talk about a vote of confidence, that he had there. I mean, my goodness, that's just. I think, was he just willing that to happen? Was he just hoping? Is that what it was there? Was he just hoping that you going to meetings was over?
I don't know if he was hoping that they were over, but he knows I like to go out and meet people and do things. Yeah. And he's a homebody, and I'm an outgoing person. So I think he was hoping that if I lost, I'd stay home and clean house more.
I love it. I love it. That's hilarious. Well, opposites attract, right? So
that's correct.
Sounds like you and your husband are opposite. How long have y'all been married?
54 years.
54 years. That is, yeah, that's impressive.
We have 3 children, 9 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. So
wow,
we've been very, very blessed.
Yeah. Now, where did you live, Commissioner, when you and your husband met? Because you've been around the country a little bit.
When we first met, he was a blind date. I was attending Patterson State College, living at the dorm, and he was in the United States Air Force, stationed at McGuire Air Force Base. And my sweet mate, her friend came back from Vietnam, and she had gone out the night he came back, and I went down and talked to him. So the next night he brought Paul, my husband, as a blind date for me, and Paul and I hit it off. And a year later, we got married. In the meantime, Frank and Linda broke up.
Wow.
No, but no, I lived in New Jersey for 4 years, or for 5 years when we were growing up. We lived in Oakland, California. And then after my husband and I were married 10 years, we moved to Michigan. So I've lived on all the coasts, the East Coast, the West Coast, and the Middle Coast, because it was
Yeah.
Lake Michigan we lived by. So now we're back by the coast and we're in the Gulf area, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it may not mean anything to you, but listen, I'm a huge Ohio State fan, and so that's where I grew up. So we don't even utter the M word in our house.
Well, my son went to OSU
Oh,
2 years, and my grandson, right now, he's a sophomore in high school, and he plays football and does track. And he's going in another couple of weeks to a football weekend at OSU because that's where he wants to go.
love it. All right. Well, the Barek family stock just went up dramatically right here. That's for sure. I love Ohio State. I grew up right there in the Columbus area, and made the move to Citrus County when I was 20. So I definitely feel like a Floridian now, though. I just turned 48 a couple weeks ago, and so I've certainly lived here longer than I've lived in Ohio. But I'm not letting go of my Buckeyes.
We started visiting with the family in 1979, and we knew back in 1979 when we retired we were going to move here. I moved here a little bit earlier, and I did teach in Dunellen at the middle school for 3 years and at Cypress Creek Juvenile Offenders for 18 months. But I mean, we knew this was where we were going to end up because it was wonderful.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, your teaching career, and it took you into some juvenile justice facilities, Cypress Creek being one of those. On the 23rd of this month, I began year number 28 of working in the nonprofit sector and working with people, and that started at Cypress Creek. Just 9 days after I turned 21, and so as you well know, if you are a juvenile and you go to Cypress Creek, you could stay there till your 21st birthday. And
Yes.
so it was very interesting for me telling kids what to do. I say kids now, at the time, it wasn't like they were really, if I saw them on the street, they'd have been my peers. I mean, some of them were 20 and I'm 21, telling them when to go to bed, when to get up, and when to eat. It was very, very interesting start for me. But what was that? How did you end up in the juvenile justice system teaching, and what was that like?
When I first started teaching, I started at Passaic County Jail. I did the alphabet soup, the ABEGEDESL. And then when we moved to Michigan, then I did teach in Patterson school system before we moved to Michigan. But when we moved to Michigan, I couldn't get back into teaching because Michigan is a union state.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, they didn't want to pay me because I had experience. So then as time went on, I finally got back into ABEGEDESL. And then there was an opening at the Ottawa County Juvenile Correctional Facility. And I applied for it, and they actually took me because they liked what I had to offer. And I was there for almost 12 years.
Wow.
I did the math program. I did the English program. I did all the testing for special ed because they sent me for a master's in special ed at Western University in Kalamazoo. Anyhow, then when I moved down here, I taught at Dunellen for 3 years because the principal over there saw the positives that I had, having come from teaching in a juvenile correction. And then when the funding ended and dried up in 2009, because at that point, the federal government had sent grants to all the states to get certified teachers and bring all the educational system up. Well, when that ended, there was an opening at Cypress Creek. And I applied. They called me in for an interview. And he says, "What day can you start?" So I went there and I taught math, I did science, and I did special ed. And it was, all the students are felons. They're convicted felons. Just like up in Michigan where I taught, they're all convicted felons. So they're there for a certain amount of time, and you work on their skills at their skill level. So all 100 students, I was teaching individually to each one of the students whatever they needed, whether it was addition or whether it was algebra. And it was fun.
Yeah, that's it's fun. It is challenging, that's for sure. But a challenge can be fun.
But you have to follow the rules, and that's the one thing. I like rules. I follow rules. I try and stay. I'm a rule person, and if you tell me this is what needs to be done and this is how you want it done, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And that's why with the county commission, if you tell me this is what you want, if the people say, go out and this is what we want the roads done. Well, then I'm going to push for roads. If they don't want the roads done and they want something else, then I'll push for whatever the people have asked me to push for. But I will follow the rules. That's why, at the meeting, sometimes I start to talk and then I have to stop because I forget that I have to wait for the chairperson to recognize me. So every once in a while, I do make a few mistakes still, but I'm learning.
Yeah, listen, you're the fourth commissioner that I've spoken to in these broadcasts, and each one of them, I think, has acknowledged. We've had the discussion about there is a learning curve. There's a learning curve to being a commissioner, and why wouldn't there be? Right? There's a learning curve to everything. I'm approaching my third year in May. Will be my third year at United Way, and when I started, I went to a CEO conference. Imagine you going to FAC, right, and
Yeah, I go
talking to
to
people.
FAC.
I went to a conference of United Way Florida CEOs, and all these people were like, "Hey, it's going to take you maybe even 3 years to figure everything out." I'm like, 3 years? I don't have that kind of time. We got to hit the ground running right now. But it's true. It does take a little while.
By June, I'll have my certified commissioner because I have been going to the conferences. I have been taking the classes, and I'll have my 47 hours done sometime in June. So it's a certified commissioner, and I'm looking forward to having that because to me that's important, and it has given me what are the sunshine laws, how do they apply to me. I've learned about growth management, which I knew about in my own way, but now I've got this state spin on it, as to what we are allowed to do, what we are not allowed to do. I've learned about other things. I went last week to Tall Timbers, and we did the controlled burn, and they also first we talked about the environment and the environmental advantages and disadvantages and what's going on in our state environmentally with our animals and our critters and our bugs and everything else. And then we went out and did the controlled burn. And the controlled burn we do in Citrus County, which is nice. If you do the controlled burn, you do not have situations like they had out in California. So I'm very pleased that our fire department belongs to the group that does the controlled burn. So a lot of things that I'm learning are things I did know, but now I'm being updated, and I like being able to get updated on all the stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like you're being updated. You're learning things at a deeper level, right, and not just sort of the maybe surface level knowledge that someone like me might have as I watch the meetings and whatnot.
Well, that's the thing. People say, I've had people ask me, how come you haven't cut the spending? Well, let's see. The budget was approved and it was put in place for October 1st of 2024. And it goes till September 30, 2025. Mm-hmm. I didn't have anything to do with that budget except in the audience. I got up and said things, but that I wasn't a commissioner. So I did not vote for it, but that's what I have to live with. So, you have to think about how long it takes to do something to get it the way you want. Now, granted, I'm got a big mouth and I do say a lot of stuff. So guess what? District 3 paving is almost done for the 23-24 budget year because they were behind. And soon they're going to start the 24-25 budget year paving in the county. And I'm very, very pleased with what they're doing. They're not doing enough streets, but they can only afford to do so much at a time. And the cost of the roads are so expensive. People don't understand how expensive they are. And that's why I've always been a proponent of the 1 cent sales tax for residential road resurfacing and repaving only. And it needs to be one thing, residential road resurfacing and repaving only, not roads. Because if you put roads on the money, then you can use it for striping, because that's part of roads. Mm-hmm. You can use it for widening 491, which has to happen. But the people need the roads in their residential areas so that they can get to and from work. The kids can play outside instead of on computers in the house or games in the house. You need to have the roads for safety. And I know my tires wear out at 22,000 miles because the roads are so bad where I live. they're 60,000 mile tires and they were at 22,000. I'm fortunate because I budget myself, not counting my money that I get now that I get paid, but prior to, so that every 18 months I can replace my tires. And that's about what it is, about every 18 months. That's not cheap. And families with kids that are in sports, that's not cheap for them. So I'm trying to look at all the different things that will be beneficial to the citizens. And if people ask me stuff, I'll answer them. They call me, I answer the phone. They send me emails and I email back to them. That's my job.
22,000 miles on a 60,000 mile tire.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure you're not out there burning rubber, Miss Janet?
No. In all the
That's
years that I have been driving, I have 0 tickets and I have
Good.
0 accidents. So, I'm one of those fortunate people.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm as you're saying that, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what a good gauge of the road surface potentially. That's pretty thoughtful, really. I'm a pretty handy guy. Don't let the perfectly combed hair fool you. And I never really considered that as being a gauge of how good the roads are or not. That's interesting. So let's think about that a little bit more. I can just see now, like a month from now, you're going to have people at public comment coming up and sharing their tire stories about how how they're wearing out too quickly. But hey, with the time that we got left, I would like to hear, like, what is a main priority? There's so much we could talk about because you sit on different boards and whatnot. But I guess I want to hear, like, what's a main priority for you? Like, what really is something that you're really kind of concerned about, would like to make some change in, and it might even be roads. We might have already discussed it, but then I'd like to also hear what you're excited about for the future. But let's just start about, like, your main concern that you feel like we need to address in Citrus County.
One of my main concerns when I was first going to meet the different division people, I said Citrus County needs they need to be able to use their cell phone anywhere in this county. I said, if you're in the forest and you're taking a walk and you fall or something happens, you need to be able to turn on, open your phone, dial 911. Hey, I need help. Or if you're a farmer and you're out in your field and you get a flat tire and you can't fix it, you need help, you need somebody to bring you something, you need to be able to do that. And it was explained that that's broadband. That's not Wi-Fi, that's broadband. So I said, well, then that's what we need throughout the entire county. So in going to my FAC meetings, I learned about AI and broadband and things, because that was one of the topics for the one seminar I went to. About 2 weeks ago, a gentleman came to my office and I got to talk to him. There is going to be broadband brought to this county, all of Citrus County, not just part of it. There's a federal grant and a state grant to pay for it. And it'll be coming starting in May. And the best part is it's going to start in District 3 and then in Inverness, because that's where the population is and that's where they want to get it started. The one city, which is Inverness, and District 3, where the largest population is. If you go driving in Citrus Springs and you take West Hampshire and you go on the other side of Elkham and you head up towards Pine Ridge and you get out of your car, you don't have cell service up there. We have lots of people that are buying houses and building houses up there. They didn't have water, they didn't have electric, and they definitely didn't have cell service. And they didn't realize that until the house got built. They got into the house. The water came because Mr. Cheek and the water department brought the water. The electric came because Withers Akuchi brought the electric, but nobody brings the cell service because you have to get in touch with Spectrum. Okay, well, Spectrum will bring it for a nominal fee of between $5,000 and $10,000 to your property. That's not fair. And as a citizen of the county, we should be able to have that. So I was really pleased when this gentleman came to my office, and the money is going to be coming. So that was one of my priorities, other than the roads. Roads have always been my number one passion and thing, but I wanted to be able to say, like if you go to the county building down in Lecanto, and you call me, the phone will ring, and then I'll say hello, and then it drops the call. And then I have to go outside the building to go back and call you back. Now, is that good? That's a county building. That's where our people work. If I'm at the courthouse in my office, the same thing happens. Now, this is in a city, Inverness. I should be able to have cell phone service wherever I go. So to me, that is a want. No, that's not a want. That's a need. And I'm here to do the needs of the citizens, not my wants, but needs.
Yeah, that's been an issue in Inverness for quite a while. That's for sure. And I think maybe even the school board talked about utilizing some old tower that they no longer use to maybe help out with that. I don't know where they're at with that, but you're right. I didn't, when I asked you the question, I didn't expect that to be the answer. Honestly,
Well,
I've
this
not
is
heard.
going to be fiber optic in the
Mhm,
ground.
mhm.
It's not going to be towers. It's fiber optic in the ground. So it's going to be in all the easements along all the county roads. And it's going to be the most wonderful thing that we have ever seen come, because it's not costing the taxpayers anything. Now, if they hook up to it, they said that you'll get your modem at the same price as you would from Spectrum. But you're not going to sit and watch the TV go around and circle and around and circle around, when it's, watching a show, and all of a sudden you get this circle going around.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people know what I'm talking about with that circle going around, because it's frustrating.
Yeah, we call that the spinning wheel of death in our house. All right, well, I'm gonna look into that a little bit more because uh, I'm trying to figure out the connection between the cell service and the fiber optic lines being laid. But I think all of that's important. And in fact, at the last chamber meeting luncheon that I was at, I think a gentleman from the company that's
Mhm.
going to do this was there and introduced himself, and I think that he got a rousing welcome from the crowd.
Well,
Everyone
it was one of
applauding
the
that their company was coming here.
that was one of my top priorities when I was asked what did I want to see for this county.
Hmm.
Number one is our roads, and number two, I want to be able to. If I said, well, let's go for a walk, and we went into the forest, and if something happened, I want to be able to dial 911 and get help. Anybody going in the forest, I want them to be able to dial 911 and get help.
For
And
sure.
then you look at the other side is the farmers. We have a whole lot of farmers, and something can happen to their equipment while they're out there. So they need to also be able to have that service.
Yeah.
And we do have the Gulf Coast, people at the beach. We have problems there sometimes. So it's a need for all the citizens, no matter whether they're visitors or whether they're residents, no matter whether they're snowbirds or whether they're full time. But it's something that the county needed, and I'm glad it's finally coming.
Yeah. All right. So, second part of my question: as you look to the future in Citrus County, what gets you excited? What are you excited about?
Well, I do like the growth, but it needs to be managed. But and I do like the fact that back in the 80s when they did the comprehensive plan, the planners did plan. And that's what they did. They looked at the county and said, okay, where should the growth be? What do we want it to look like? Do we want it to look like Tampa? No. We don't want to have house on top of house. And I don't want house on top of house. And I don't want places like California where every house is exactly the same. And hopefully we're not getting every house looking exactly the same, because we want communities. And yes, the housing developments are coming whether we want them or not. And hopefully the people that live in them will uh, take care of them and become little communities in themselves where they have friends. The kids can play safely. People know people, and they do things together. And that's what I look forward to seeing. I came from a big city. Okay. When I grew up in Paterson, New Jersey. Okay. We lived in a section called People's Park, and they had sections in the city. And you lived in Riverside. You lived over here up on the hillside. You had different sections, and that was your community, and everybody was friends. So that's what I'd like to see. Like Beverly Hills, when it was first built back in the late 60s, early 70s, when my in-laws first moved down here in 70, it was built by people that came to retire. And that's what it was for. Now it's not the same because as the people died, the relatives didn't keep the houses, they rented them out or sold them off. So there's a lot of young families because they could afford the house at that point in time. Okay, so you've got a lot of children. We need to have activities for the children. So when Diana Finnegan says she'd like to have the park over on a certain street and have so many ball fields, I think that's a wonderful idea because it's something the community could use and needs. I proposed a park over off of 39 because it has kayak accessibility to a lake that empties into the Withlacoochee River. It's also high and dry. It has paved parking already. It has a building with bathrooms in it. It has some picnic tables. For a minimal amount of money, we could have a park that people could use 12 months a year. And that's what I hope to see, where we have communities where people can get involved and do things and go back to when the old people came in the 70s. A lot of them volunteered. Lately, we're not getting the volunteers that we used to. And that's a shame. But I'd like to see communities where people do volunteer and give of their time and give back to our county.
Yeah, anything that fosters community. Because I gotta wonder. I've talked about this many times around the office here. Like, what will the community center even exist at some point? And I feel like it'll go away, right? If we keep going down the path that we're going down right now, we've got to do life with each other because it's one of the fundamental questions that we ask here at United Way when someone comes for assistance, financial assistance and whatnot. It's like, okay, well, who are you doing life with? Who are you connected to? Obviously, we're going to start that conversation about family and then friends, and then where do you worship? Are you connected to any civic groups? And I think that one of the things that's one of the common threads, Commissioner, with folks that are struggling, often maybe the most common thread, is that they're going it alone. And so I don't want to see people going it alone. I talked to a lady right before Christmas, and she said she didn't have Christmas dinner. She lived by herself and whatnot. And this was a Thursday before Christmas. I think Christmas last year was on like Wednesday. It was midweek. And I said, look, it's Thursday. Where do you go to church? Well, I got a couple of them that I go to frequently. Well, go to one of those churches this Sunday, talk to the leadership there afterwards. And if you go without Christmas dinner, I'll eat my hat. Like, you got to be connected to folks. So, and you mentioned the parks, so important. I'm so glad you're supportive of that too. What an issue that's just been brought up, right? That it's just been so long since that's been paid attention to. So I'm
talking about parks for, like I said, I'm talking about parks that are for families.
Sure.
And for the residents.
Yeah.
Okay. The children need that ball field. They really do. It's not a want, it's a need. The children and the people, the one that I'm proposing is for families and for kayakers. It's not for, visitors will go, but it's not for, the visitors will get tourists. That's not what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing and what I'm seeing is we need things for the people that reside here and the children that are growing up here. And if we don't give them something, they're not going to want to stay. And that's the problem. They're not staying. They'll go to school here, and then once they finish school, they don't want to come back here. And we need them to come back here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wish you luck. Hey, one thing about politics, it's almost like we talk about my love for football earlier. My Ohio State Buckeyes are the reigning national champions. Yeah. But listen, what happens is, as soon as you celebrate a victory, and then the next day, everyone's talking about next season, right? I think you don't even get time to enjoy it. I think politics is kind of the same way. So, when you want to make news and let us know if you're going to run for a second term, everyone's looking at the next election already. Then you come back here and we'll make news. You can announce it to the world.
If I decide to run, I will definitely come back and let you know that.
All right.
I'm healthy enough. God says I can do this, and if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. I pray to Him every day, and I thank Him every day because I'm not young. I am the oldest commissioner there is on the board right now. So, and I do have all my brains. So that was, I thank God for that. I don't have any problems with that. I get to and from where I want to go. I'm not afraid to drive anywhere in Citrus County. That's another thing. I do like the fact that we are safe here right now. Our community, you can go almost anywhere day or night and not have to worry about anybody attacking you.
Yeah.
And I thank our sheriffs and our deputies for all the good work they do, and the firemen too. We need more firemen, but the ones that we do have, they do an excellent job.
Well, God bless all of our first responders, and thank your husband for me for his service to our country as well. So.
You're welcome.
All right, Commissioner Barek, we'll have you back on in the future, and you'll let us know whether you're going to go for a second term. And in the meantime, thank you for stepping up. Thank you for serving. Listen, we can always find things to agree on when it comes to public policy and politics, and things to disagree on. I think one thing we should all agree on is just give our thanks to folks that are willing to step up and serve. And you've done that, and I appreciate you. So, all right, everyone, thanks for watching. And we've got one more commissioner, Commissioner Bays. We also got our mayors are going to be on as well. And, you can always go back in the video feed and watch other interviews that we've done, or you can go on to Apple or Spotify, search for the Voices United podcast, and you can listen to any of those interviews. We've had some great folks on. We've had our supervisor of elections, our county administrator, Jerry Mulligan has been on here, 4 county commissioners now. And so various folks. Love for you to get caught up on all of those. And once again, Commissioner Barek, thank you. And we will see you right back here next week, everyone.
You're very welcome. Bye.